So what's a entity like you doing in a dimension like this?
I am not sure what you mean.
Well, a beautiful flower like you must have stuff she's interested in.
I have no roots.
Oh, okay. What about food? Do you have any foods that you like? I myself prefer sautéed VTubers a la mode.
Rodents specifically.
Oh, what do you do in your spare time?
Trains are excellent for efficiently moving vast quantities of parts.
Oh yeah, is that right? So you're a working girl then?
Thank you. I worked very hard.
You know I love a girl who's efficient. It's kind of my kink.
That is a welcome surprise. I have a question. What, according to you, is the shape of our universe?
Well, tonight, baby, I think the shape of your universe is gonna be an orb.
How inappropriate. Tell me more.
Well, how about I call for the tab and take us back to my dimension and I can show you instead.
If I could blush, I would. Milestone reached. You truly are a far superior collaborator than humanity.
Baby, you know it.
WTF is the Satisfactory Pioneer.
Satisfactory. Another S-tier automation simulation that gives my nipples stimulation. The game's premise revolves around the totally made up and completely fictional concept of total corporate takeover of an entire planet, and allows us to live the ultimate fantasy of providing maximum shareholder value for the company that we work for and that doesn't care about our lives at all. And it allows for the creation of the most unhinged abominations of base construction I've ever had the displeasure of seeing. This game, above all else, truly allows your insano mind to just run wild with whatever completely nonsensical crap you want to build. But at the heart of it all is the Pioneer, who has been willingly sent to this strange outer alien world with the purpose of doing something. It's not entirely clear. But what is our strange, enigmatic player character behind the mask? Are they a man, a machine, or perhaps a bunch of fish in a suit? Let's find out. But first, let's establish some ground rules. I'm not going to be taking into account anything that is outside of the game's context, meaning that I'm not going to be taking into account anything like patch notes or tweets from the developer, since the purpose of this video is not to find out what the developer intended the Pioneer to be, but more so what the in-game physics and lore imply the engineer to be. This is because 1, a writer or director's views on their own subject matter could change over time, and 2, this is a way more interesting question if you ignore outside resources. It's easy for someone to intend to make a story about a human, but if they have the human do things like lift 700-ton boulders and eat rocks, they're probably not a human. And lastly, I'm obviously aware that this is a video game and that there are things in the game that need to be balanced for player enjoyment. It's not a very fun video game if you die instantly to depressurization, and these changes can have broader implications to the overall narrative, and thus by complete accident make interesting and funny physics implications, which I enjoy exploring. And if you didn't understand that, then you're probably a toddler who got lost on his mom's iPad. And also, you're gonna be late to school, your first grade class is about to start, and also Santa Claus isn't real, your mom and dad divorced because of you, and you are not your best friend's best friend. First things first, we need to start off with the size of the Pioneer as a baseline. And luckily, the game includes a bunch of foundation pieces that are nice and rectangular and that actually display their dimensions. This could be an invaluable resource used to measure everything in the game, if these measurements are correct. What do I mean by that, you may ask? Well, in this video, just like everything in life, we're not going to take the first answer that comes to us just because it's the easiest. After all, if we use these measurements for everything and they end up being completely wrong, then every conclusion found with them is going to be incorrect as well. So to be extra sure that we're correct, we need to find 2 different measurement methods that point us to the same conclusion. Now, my first method is to try to utilize the water in the tanks, since water always has a consistent density and therefore we can easily find the volume as long as we know the dimensions of the tank. However, all this rabbit hole did for me was make me realize that water in Satisfactory does not exist. It is not real, it is a figment of the Pioneer's imagination, because the large tank has over 4 times the amount of water that it should be holding, which would require it to be under 249,000 psi in order to fit into that tank, which is, more than 15 times the pressure of the bottom of the Marianas Trench. And all of the other water storage and containing sources being completely inconsistent with this, giving vastly different results that sometimes conflict with themselves. So we won't be using water since that isn't even consistent with itself. And then my next process was to try to utilize train weight as a baseline for measurements. since every source I can find says that the train's weight is supposed to be 30 tons when empty. But this led me down an even bigger rabbit hole trying to verify this information. There is nothing in the game that shows that a train weighs 30 tons. The empty cars themselves don't give any sort of weight when you open their inventory. The locomotive doesn't show weight of anything it's pulling. Neither the freight loading station or the main train station itself have any sort of weight indicator. So then I was like, oh, it must be out of game information from like a patch notes or a tweet or something. So I went onto the wiki to see what their sources were. And they had a link and said that this was added in patch 0.5. But then when you click their link to patch 0.5, and read the patch notes on their wiki, there is no mention of vehicle weight whatsoever for any vehicle, let alone trains. So I thought, okay, this must be just a mistake on their part. They forgot to add it to their patch notes wiki. So I go directly to the Steam patch notes themselves and look for it there, and it is still not there. If anyone in the comments knows where they got this information from, please let me know. I am desperate. It has been racking my brain since I've tried to find it. Because, you know, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but it kind of seems like the Satisfactory wiki just kind of, sort of...
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
And during my exhaustive deep dive into the wiki to try to figure out this lost information, I saw that you could just hold Alt and click and it would ping a distance marker for you. I have over 500 hours in this game and I had no idea you could do this. Why did nobody tell me? So whatever, we measure the width of the thing to verify it. Great, it's 8 meters, just like the other thing said, so we know we can use that. Whoop-de-fuck-do, I'm gonna go drown myself now. And at long last, we can finally measure the height of the Pioneer by standing her up next to a wall and measuring her height. And we get a grand total of 5 feet 10 inches, which is the exact same height as on every single resource on the wiki and everything, meaning I just completely wasted my time. Awesome, great, thanks, bye to those 4 hours. So power is going to be a bit of an odd one to calculate since nothing in Satisfactory has a weight assigned to it. And we aren't even afforded the ability to calculate using melee damage since most of the weapons that the Pioneer can utilize are either a chainsaw or an electric-based weapon. Which means we need to find a method of calculating a type of force that the Pioneer can exert that doesn't require the use of mass. So let me introduce you to this bad boy right here. Incomprehensible, isn't it? You probably don't know what you're looking at unless you've already seen this before. This is how you find the amount of drag inflicted upon someone who is swimming through water, otherwise known as the drag force. This is relevant because if we find this, then we can use this to find the watts amount of power required to swim at a certain speed, and then convert the watts into horsepower. Which is a lot of hoops to jump through to find out how strong somebody is, but that's exactly what you get when you don't have access to any sort of mass measurements. But we need to gather a couple more points of data before we can properly start doing all this math. We need 4 things: water density, drag coefficient, frontal cross section of the Pioneer, and their velocity through water. Since we'll be doing this on a freshwater lake, we can assume that the water density of fresh water is the average of 1,000. And since we already know the height of the Pioneer, we can give a rough estimation using the averages for a 5'10" female swimmer in order to get the drag coefficient. To get the frontal cross section, I built a green screen in Satisfactory, which I then used to measure the Pioneer against an 8x4 meter wall, touched up the screenshot in order to make it clearer, then just found the percentage of space that she took up in order to get us the front cross section of the Pioneer. And finally, for velocity, we'll time the Pioneer as she swims this 80-meter segment of water. The speed that the Pioneer travels through water is the same no matter which way she's facing. I did in fact test this, although you're only going to see the one where she's facing forward, since that's obviously the cross section that we're going to be using. And since there is no visible change in her model when she gets out of the water, we can assume that her clothes don't absorb water and thus slow her down more than usual. So after getting our time, we solve for the velocity, and we now have everything we need to calculate the horsepower of the Pioneer. And the best part, now that I've rubbed your brain raw from all this hardcore math I've shown you, it's gonna feel excruciatingly painful what I'm about to do to you. Enjoy! So we come to a whopping 182 horsepower, assuming that whatever is propelling the Pioneer is working at 100% energy efficiency. And if we adjust for the limit of human muscle efficiency, then that brings us all the way up to 609 horsepower, which is roughly around the power of an Audi R8. So she's got quite the power behind her. But those of you who are a little bit more autistic might be screaming at your screen right now with one thing I supposedly overlooked: derailed trains. So whenever trains are knocked off the track, the Pioneer can simply walk up and snap them right back onto the track. However, there are a couple reasons why I think this is not an accurate way to measure the Pioneer's strength. First, the way the trains snap back onto the rail seems to imply that the rail is magnetically reattaching them rather than the Pioneer actually putting them back on, since a train that is a mile long will all snap back onto one rail at the same time. So unless the Pioneer is telekinetic and able to just magically put an entire train on at the same time, this is almost certainly an electric-based feature of the rails. How do I know that a mile-long train will snap back into place all at once? Well, let's just say...
I have peered unto the throne of God and saw that it lie empty. My soul was illuminated only by the far-off twinkles of long-dead stars. My mind knew not but to create a mechanicum I could not contain. Look upon my works, ye almighty, and despair. As you gaze upon the pinnacle of mortal achievement, know there is nothing left to strive for. Do I look like a being who cares what a god thinks? How could a higher being exist when he hath unleashed me to create such horrors upon his world? I will soon cover this world in nothing but a train to make Jormungandr fear. Then I will cage the sun itself in a locomotive prison, and soon I shall teach it to sing.
Speed. It's much more than just those things my uncle had me smuggle into Thanksgiving dinners. It's also that thing that lets me chase women alone at night. So let's see how the Pioneer measures up. Speed is as simple of a test as ever. We simply have the Pioneer sprint down an 80-meter long runway and time the result. And we are of course not using any of the Blade Runners. We get 5.5 seconds and we plug it into the super easy baby velocity formula, and we get about 14.5 meters per second or 32 miles an hour. Which, considering her swim speed is also almost 30 miles an hour, it leaves you to wonder just what is under that jumpsuit. So since we don't have access to any mass measurements in the game, we're just gonna have to kind of use a vibes-based measurement system. And there ain't nothing less scientific or vibes-based than a tier list, baby. First up, we have getting farted on by the weird plants and rocks in the world. Yeah, that's fair. Greatly misjudging how much fall damage you can take before becoming a human pancake. Yeah, I mean, that's my fault. Next up, getting the munchies for some very spicy rocks. Yep. Not sure what I expected. Dying to these stupid spicy pigs who won't leave me the alone. Cringe.
There's a misinput. Calm down! You calm the fuck down! There's a misinput!
Dealing with these bugs, motherfucker, going to take a leak while riding your mile-long hypertube and forgetting that at the end there's a intersection that you have to push left on, and otherwise you'll be launched out of bounds. Hell yeah. Getting blasted to death by these Powerade beams. Nobody likes Powerade. Engaging in peaceful and diplomatic association with the local Australian wildlife. Demonstrating to the local ATF just how effectively the 45 ACP round destroys the soul. Hitching a ride on an Amazon drone and then telling it that you canceled your Prime subscription and then getting subsequently launched into the void. Very cool. And finally, building such a horrific spaghetti factory that you completely forget what route the uranium train takes to get back to base and going AFK next to the railroad tracks. Happens to everyone. And that's the tier list. Let me know if I missed any ways to die. I'm looking for pointers. But in the meantime, now let's go over everything that the Pioneer can actually survive, and this list is a lot more impressive. First off, fall damage. As long as the Pioneer has 100% of their health, they are unable to die from fall damage, no matter how high they fall from. I played this game for 500 hours and I didn't know that. I thought it was the Blade Runners that caused this effect, but no, it's just when you're at full health, you will always survive a fall no matter from how high. What this tells me is that the Pioneer almost certainly has enhancements to her legs. This would also explain her insane speed feats from earlier. And the fact that even a small amount of damage nullifies this could be explained by the fact that whatever is giving her this ability is getting damaged. Next up, at a bare minimum, the Pioneer can walk into this 500 megawatt energy reactor and just get pushed back and take no damage. But this could easily be explained by her suit having some anti-electrical property that can nullify electrical energy, since there's no upper limit to this either. Next, while the Pioneer can stay underwater indefinitely, I don't think this is an accurate measurement because the Pioneer does automatically swim to the surface, and the only way to get yourself to stay underwater permanently is to get stuck on geometry, which strikes me as more of a bug than a feature. And finally, the ability to survive essentially unlimited amounts of G-force when impacting a wall out of the hypertube. And again, I think this is more of an outlier inconsistency, since we know that the boars are able to kill you by charging into you and throwing rocks at you. So with all this taken into account, and this might be a hot take, I'm not going to be counting any of these first three towards this rating due to them either being explainable with equipment or just inconsistent with what we've seen in the game. Unfortunately, intelligence is just something that we're going to have to do a lot of guesstimating on, since there's really no hard numbers to go off whatsoever. We know that the Pioneer isn't actually constructing everything in the game by hand, since everything seems to be constructed at an atomic level based on pre-established blueprints. All of the buildings have Fiskit logos all over them, as if they were a company model, and the Pioneer is mostly just choosing where to place these items for maximum efficiency and output. And on that same note, a lot of Ada's voice lines and general demeanor over the entirety of the game seem more like she's talking to a toddler that she's trying to teach how to build a factory.
Reminder: coal-powered generators require coal.
With the whole theming of the game being that you're just a mindless worker, a giant cog in the machine, you know? You don't think, you simply provide shareholder value and you save the day. There is nothing else. Why are you asking? It's great, 10 out of 10. So I think the easiest answer is that the Pioneer's intelligence is just a basic human intelligence, where she knows nothing at the beginning of the game, and just like the player, learning to assemble all of these prefabricated buildings and technologies in the most optimal way. And finally, we get to the Pioneer's X Factors. The Pioneer's ability to respawn from death, and thus granting her quasi-immortality, and the inventory of the Pioneer. Luckily though, the latter actually has an in-game explanation, with Ada straight up telling you outright when you upgrade your inventory space.
Pocket dimension now extra dimensionalized with additional dimensional capacity.
So yeah, pocket dimension. Thank you, game. Very cool. But what about the Pioneer's ability to come back from death? Well, we know the Pioneer doesn't get actively replaced whenever they die, since their email address does not change whenever they do perish. Every email is always sent to the same Fiskit employee. And when they do die, they respawn in the designated area that they initially chose as their first drop zone. Although they do get a boot up sequence for their HUD upon respawning, so I believe that implies that at least the equipment that they are wearing and the suit is new, with whatever living being the Pioneer may be being relocated to a new suit after death, which certainly has some interesting implications. So what is the Satisfactory Pioneer? Believe it or not, I think we can come to a pretty solid conclusion. And I believe that this proves unequivocally, undeniably, that the Satisfactory Pioneer is a cute, bubbly vampire girl. Yes! Let's go! Cute vampire girl time!
Continue exposing yourself. Milestone reached.
Alright, baby. Are you ready to find out why they call me the Orb of Meat?
Choo-choo mother.
Okay, baby, let's get this mask off. No, this can't be. I was wrong. You're actually a...
Did I say something wrong?
What is up, my fellow smooth brain enjoyers? It is I, your favorite suspicious amalgamation of tentacles and a circular orientation here. If you enjoyed the agony I've inflicted upon you today, then help this disease spread, grow, and become
malignant.
Share this video with your so-called friends. They didn't like you that much anyway. Your grandma took away your ability to buy a house, so show them this video and take away their ability to remember names. Inflict this torture upon other websites. Post this video to Reddit 12 times an hour. Don't feel bad, Redditors don't have souls. Go to Twitter and say horrific, unhinged things that only psychos would say, like, hey, this channel is pretty cool. Scream out my name whenever you orgasm. When you commit tax fraud, write my name on the 1040 form. Before you send that F-22 Raptor manual to War Thunder, write this channel name on it as well. Put this video on fleas, put the fleas on rats, put the rats on ships, and send those ships to Europe. There are literally no consequences to this action. And don't forget to hit that funny object that looks like my medication that I forgot to take this morning.
Fix it forever, we pave the way. Grinding the planets to save the day. Machines hum loud in a perfect choir. We build the world and we never tire. Mountains crumble under our design, turning chaos into a straight line. We tame the wild with a roaring heart. From the dirt and dust, we create our art. Fix it forever, we pave the way. Running the planets to save the day. Machines hum loud in a perfect choir. We build the world and never tire. Concrete jungles rise from dust. Welding futures built on trust. From barren lands to factories, I'm the queen of efficiency. Every bolt and every spark fix its logo, leaves its mark.